So CD Projekt Red just announced a huge list of changes coming with update 1.2. Of course, it is going to drop really soon according to the announcement from an hour ago or so, and in this video I want to go over the more important changes because there's many of these being listed for every single area of the game, for the quests, for the gameplay, for the behaviors, NPCs. They even did quite a bit of rebalancing of certain items, prices and capabilities and all of that, so let's jump right into it. Now, we don't really have a release date for the new update, all we have is a coming soon disclaimer, but chances are that it's going to drop either later today or by Wednesday, which is technically the last day in the month in which they can release update 1.2. But with that being said and done, let's go over the changes, including the ones that were announced previously, like the NCPD spawn radius being increased for when a player commits a crime. Also, new steering sensitivity slider added to control settings to allow you to reduce steering speed for all of the vehicles on all input devices. There's also like adjusted vehicle steering code, so it better works in either extremely low or extremely high frame rate situations to produce more consistent results. There's also like the one where you can unstuck your vehicle using either your left stick or WASD or shift and left control to engage that rocking forward and back or left to right so that you can unstuck it in case it is on a rail or something. And there's many other minor driving fixes for a ton of the vehicles to improve steering and so on and so forth, so I'm not going to stay too much on these, but I do want to talk about some really important changes to mechanics and other items that you equip on your character, including for the Berserk effect. So they fixed an issue where aiming while under the effect of the Berserk cyberware moved the crosshair with no input for the players, and they've also made it so that using Z-Attack Sandviston MK1 cyberware now correctly slows down time, which was not the case previously. Also, for Gorilla Arms, you can no longer perform finishers against the civilians, so that's a pretty big shame. And they also kind of nerfed one of the movement capabilities, so players can no longer cancel fall damage by performing a slide action when about to fall from greater heights, which was a really awesome way of kind of preventing that damage by kind of engaging into that slide before your character falls. So yeah, it's unfortunate to see it going. Another one is for the Korenzikov. They fixed an issue where dodging right after the Korenzikov cyberware effect ended resulted in pushing V a great distance forward. Now, from my theory, I think that this means that a really awesome way to traverse at really high speeds is now probably not working anymore or working in a limited way, but we will test this in the game. Now, there's many other changes here listed, so I'm going to go over them really quickly. Cyber Psychos and mini bosses are now immune to tranquilizer rounds and system reset quick hack, which means in theory you can no longer farm them and one-shot them with the tranquilizer rounds at the very least. Also, we have a couple of really interesting changes to vendors and prices. So clothing vendors now sell items more suitable for their location, and then the price of a Tabula e Rasa, which was the item you would use to reset your perk points, can now be bought at a reduced price. So yeah, it doesn't really specify what price it has after the new update, but it was 100k before that, so hopefully it is quite significant. There's many other changes in there, including for when you exit a vehicle, fixed an issue where V could get stuck in empty buildings when exiting a vehicle parked close to the wall. And there's many other such rebalancings, like for example Gorilla Arm damage is increased by 20%, which is a pretty big one. They've also rebalanced a little bit how you can unlock certain abilities and certain passives in the skill trees. Like for example, Transmigration trait is now unlockable at Breach Protocol level 20 rather than 16, and players who unlocked Transmigration pre-level 20 and did not yet reach that level will have the trait locked and perk points for it restored. Now, there's many more changes in there that I won't go over due to time constraints. There's also many for the quests in the game. I'm pretty sure that every single quest, including a ton of side quests, are also here on the list of changes and fixes. So if you had any trouble with any of them, chances are that it's already here, including the quest icon now correctly being removed from Johnny's clothing set after you already got the breathtaking achievement. So this is for all of the Johnny items that you can't delete in your inventory. After the new item, that quest marker should be removed from said items so that you can further either delete them or scrap them and not have to worry about them being permanently in your inventory. And there's many other fixes here that I won't stay over because it's just way too long. Now for the open world, there's another huge list of more changes, so I'm going to go over the more important ones again, including for the collisions, which will no longer fail to stream in randomly during driving, which could lead to V driving into buildings and failing out of the world, which was a pretty common problem with the game. Destructibles will also no longer become indestructible after loading a save. Fixed an issue where some NCPD hustles were not marked as finished after loading the objective container. They've also fixed an issue where achievements for completing district activities were no longer always unlocked, and this was actually a bug that would prevent you to get the full achievement for unlocking all of the district activities. So in case you're in that situation, maybe after this update it will finally be fixed. There's also a ton of fixes for certain gigs that would either get stuck after certain situations or not progressing because you would get your progression blocked. So if you want to read them extensively, you can find all of that in the links down below. But there's also some fixes to NPC behaviors, so NPCs will no longer stay blocked on traffic lanes while in fear. NPCs hit by a car will now immediately run in panic, and they've added different animation variations for pedestrians running away from vehicles. Now there's many changes to graphics, audio and animations, including NPC fixes when they would move after being killed. They've also made improvements in texture rendering from afar, which sounds actually interesting, and fixed a visual issue with fast travel and cinematic transition. They've also adjusted visual quality of some elements when underwater and improvements in material detail quality. There's quite a lot of changes to how V is positioned inside vehicles. Like for example, they fixed an issue with V's incorrect position while riding a motorcycle. Also, they fixed V's hands, which are now correctly displayed on a steering wheel while driving, and V now leans out of a vehicle correctly during chases. They've also fixed an issue where the character could appear deformed while mounting on motorcycles, among many other things. And even the T-posing for NPCs has been addressed. They fixed several issues while missing lip sync, and camera no longer flips when V is under an object and jumps. Now the most important for you, if especially you're on an old generation of consoles, we have stability and performance. This section discusses changes that enter all the platforms, but many of them make a bigger difference on last gen consoles and lower performance machines. So they've improved stability and performance of the engine and the rendering engine, reducing the number of course of random crashes. They've made memory optimizations and memory management improvements in various systems, reducing the number of crashes again. Also various optimizations and improvements in shadows, shaders, physics, work spot system, spawn system, scene system, animation, occlusion system, and a lot of other stuff on top, even for facial animations and whatnot. They fixed mechanisms for managing UI icons, aliases memories, which would help with memory related crashes, especially during long time playthroughs. Multiple UI stability improvements and fixes for the most common UI related crashes. They've also made various fixes, among others, in settings menus and upon reloading saves repeatedly during gameplay and GPU related. They've made multiple UI performance improvements, hopefully for the ones that would make the UI seem very sluggish, or when items would disappear from your character because you were changing them too fast. They've also fixed a performance drop during controller button mashing, causing V to receive multiple copies of the same item, and various other stability and performance improvements that again will affect all of the systems, but especially the ones that are lower end. Now, of course, there's many more changes, both PC and console specific, so going over a few more. Enable ray tracing on AMD graphics cards. Latest GPU drivers are of course required. They've also added more keys that are now available for rebinding in the key binding menu. Keyboard binding is now possible to bind opening and closing specific panels to the same key, which actually sounds really interesting. For modding support, this is an even bigger one. They've added a new mod folder folder for loading modded archives. The modded archives can now be named in any way and go into the mod folder. Having mod archives in the patch folder is no longer supported, so if you have any of those installed, you need to change them and move them to the mod folder, as I've said. Now for the consoles, they fixed an issue where the PlayStation 4 items couldn't be dropped from the backpack, as they would always reappear back into the inventory, among other things. They've also fixed an issue that caused the game to zoom in when pressing pause on PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X. They've also fixed the streaming issue with the elevator panel in Play It Safe on the Xbox One, and improved the mechanism for adjusting the UI texture resolution depending on the platform. There's many more, including various memory handling optimizations on the Xbox, improved screen space reflections, issues with screen space reflection and TAA has also been addressed, and they fixed rendering issues when fog interacts with nearby lighting on the PlayStation 4. There's various other environment streaming and input/output improvements for the consoles, and also various NPCs and vehicle streaming improvements have also been made. And yeah, many more, including for random game freezes on the old gen and a ton of other issues with the PlayStation 4 and the old Xbox Ones. So a ton more. I've skipped a ton of these, by the way. If you want to do a more extensive read, there's a ton more for the UI, for the environmental levels. There's many changes and fixes along the way. So this is like the biggest update yet. It's probably gonna drop either later today or maybe in the next couple of days. So when that happens, I will keep you guys posted. But in the meantime, this is it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.